UN Security Council will hold a private meeting on Ukraine following the crash of a Russian plane carrying captured Ukrainian soldiers. Countries and international agencies condemn Israeli attack on a UN-run training center housing thousands of displaced people in Khan Yunis and Gaza. UN Security Council will hold a private closed-door meeting on Ukraine following the crash of a Russian plane carrying captured Ukrainian soldiers in Belgorod Oblast. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, at a UN press briefing on Wednesday, said Russia had called for an emergency UN Security Council session. All 74 people aboard the plane were killed, including 65 Ukrainian prisoners of war headed for a swap. Wednesday marks 700 days since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began. Commenting on the plane crash, President Volodymyr Zelensky said it is necessary to establish all the clear facts as the crash happened in Russian territory beyond their control. Rescuers recovered the body of an 8-year-old girl from the rubble of a partially destroyed building after a new wave of Russian strikes hit the Ukrainian capital and other cities on Tuesday. 18 people were killed and dozens injured. At least 5 people were killed when a strike hit a mosque in the southern Gaza city of Rafah on Wednesday. The dead and the injured were taken to the nearby Abu Yusuf al-Najjar hospital. Israeli fire has killed over 25,700 Palestinians in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Countries and international agencies denounced an attack by Israeli tanks that killed at least 9 people at a UN-run training center housing thousands of displaced people in Khan Yunis on Wednesday.
There was an attack on an UNRWA training centre in Khan Yunis. It's been sheltering 10,000 displaced people, and they've just been hit recently in the afternoon just now, and mass casualties have taken place. Some buildings are ablaze, and there's reported of deaths. Many people are trying to flee the scene but unable to do so.
The United States condemned the attack.
We deplore today's attack on the UN's Khan Yunis training center. You've heard me say it before, you've heard the Secretary say it before, but civilians must be protected, and the protected nature of UN facilities must be respected.
Protesters demonstrating for the release of the hostages from Gaza have blocked traffic on a central highway in Tel Aviv on Wednesday. According to Israeli media, the protest came as Qatar has communicated to Israel that Hamas is temporarily delaying all further talks for a hostage deal.
In the face of a surge of cocaine being trafficked through European ports, the EU is aiming to engage with private sea terminal operators to crack down on drugs gangs. The European Ports Alliance is a new initiative to enhance cooperation and intelligence gathering between police, customs officials and the private sector. It was launched in Antwerp by the EU's Home Affairs Commissioner.
Rival criminal groups are working together, putting big shipments together on one side of the Atlantic, redistributing them on the other side, here in Europe. And we are teaming up to stop the criminal groups infiltrating our ports with bribery and corruption and threats. Because it's very difficult for people to get into the harbour, to get the drugs out of the container. For that, they need inside help.
2023 saw a huge increase in drug seizures in several European countries, with gangs exploiting internal security weaknesses in ports. The new alliance aims to build on anti-trafficking measures already taken at some ports and make them more widespread across Europe.
French farmers are protesting with roadblocks across the country on Wednesday against what they consider to be excessive regulation, trying to put pressure on Gabriel Attal's government. Farmers in nearly 85 departments are expected to take action, blocking major routes across France.
On est en train de préparer le barbecue. Voilà, la viande va arriver. Déjà aussi, c'est pour se chauffer ce soir. Bétaillère qui est placée derrière, ça, ce sera pour vraiment se coucher aussi, pour dormir, parce qu'on veut dormir au chaud aussi.
L'idée, c'est de passer plusieurs jours ici?
Oui, tout à fait.
In Lithuania, more than 1,000 tractors have entered the centre of Vilnius. Farmers are protesting poor agricultural policy making.
Kiekvieną dieną vis tos naujovės mums jau baigia papjauti.
Gana politikos nukreiptos prie žemės ūkį, gana dezinformacijos ir gana pilt purvą ant žemdirbių.
Agricultural Commissioner says the EU will listen to farmers' voice as protests continue.
We are hearing very carefully farmers' voice, and I can declare that we will take into account this voice in our work, especially for the future common agricultural policy.
A farmers' trade union threatens to block the entire Île-de-France.
The EU has failed to reduce car emissions in the last 10 years for passenger cars equipped with internal combustion engines, despite having stronger rules for car makers. This is the conclusion of the new report by the European Court of Auditors. Although new petrol and diesel engines are more environmentally friendly now, cars have become bigger and more powerful, and as a result, real CO2 emissions remain very high.
One of the last reasons is for the diesel and petrol cars, why they haven't really, their emissions did not decrease. You know, for example, the market for SUV has grown significantly. The cars are getting heavier, you know, although maybe the engines are getting more efficient. You know, the weight of these cars, you know, many of the safety measures and other equipment which is added, you know, to the cars makes them emit more or less the same. So that's another reason, you know, why there was no decrease of emissions for petrol and diesel cars.
Overall emissions remained the same for diesel cars, while for petrol vehicles there was a slight decrease of 4.6%. But in this period, cars gained an average of 10% in weight and 25% more in power. Any real cut in car emissions is due to the spread of electric cars across Europe. However, the EU is facing challenges in relation to raw materials and the difficulties in battery production for electric cars.
The EU funds are mostly really targeted to the renewable energy, you know, to increasing the density of the charging infrastructure. You know, there is the Raw Material Act, actually, which should hopefully provide better security with the raw material for the production of the batteries. So I think the EU is now already recently started really completely switching the focus, and all the investments are going for, you know, for clean things.
CO2 emissions from the transport sector has continued to grow. In 2021, it was 23% of the EU's total greenhouse gas emissions, with passenger cars responsible for more than half of this amount. Shona Murray, Euronews, Brussels.
Serbia is in urgent need of foreign workers, since more than 30,000 locals leave the country every year due to precarious working conditions. Some sectors in need of migrants the most include construction and public transport, among others. But some say there is still hope if the country gets its act together.
No, I'm not planning to stay here. I wanted to go to maybe Canada, but I believe that by the time I finish here, I'll be having some change of mind.
If I get the opportunity to stay, if maybe I get a job after school, that it's okay for me, sure, why not?
Serbia has not yet created the appropriate integration structures to receive migrants, and the first barrier is the language.
Neki angažuju prevodioca, neki na engleskom, sad sve zavisi opet i od prirode posla i toga koliko ljudi i koliko dugo ostaju. Poslodavac napravi u sistematizaciji to radno mesto i jednostavno mu bude prevodilac ceo dan. Na gradilištima se to uglavnom dešava.
Serbia's neighboring country Croatia has a different approach, prioritizing communication before labor.
Nama je ta odluka u gradu Zagrebu bila iznimno važna iz razloga što mislimo da je to prvi korak prema integraciji stranih radnika kojih je sve više u gradu Zagrebu. Imamo podatak da ih je trenutno 23.000 i mi ne možemo čekati u stvari neku nacionalnu razinu da poduzme neke integracijske mjere.
Serbia is a key stopover in the Balkans for migrants en route to Europe, yet many seem to settle here.
A number of solar panel companies and tender beneficiaries who started installing solar panels in Hungary with EU support have run into trouble. The projects, advertised as 100% financed, has repeatedly turned out to require co-financing, and the less capital-rich contractors who pre-financed the subsidy money have run into liquidity problems, jeopardizing the money of clients and the success of the projects. The problem is partly caused by the mismanagement and bureaucratic way the 2021 tender was handled, says an energy expert.
Látjuk a 2023-as évi költségvetési folyamatokat is, hogy sokkal nehezebb és sokkal kedvezőtlenebb pályára keveredett a magyar államháztartás, mint amit eredetileg elgondolt, és így gyakorlatilag keresett olyan irányokat, amelyekben vissza tudja fogni a kiadásokat.
In the last 2 years, the solar panel market has been at a standstill, but now it's growing at a fast pace, causing problems and rising costs for the Hungarian energy grid, driving up contractor prices and creating uncertainty in the industry.
Nem biztos, hogy az a legjobb megoldás, hogyha egyébként fontosan pályáztatással próbáljuk ezt a piacot, ugye, ahogy mondtam, színusz görbe szerint ugye szabályozni, hanem az lenne jó, hogyha teljesen piaci alapon lehetne ezt csinálni, hiszen más nyugat-európai országokban is egy teljesen élhető megtérülés ideje van ezeknek a napelemes rendszereknek.
But in Hungary, partly due to the market distorting effect caused by artificially low state-regulated energy prices for households, consumers have a different view. So while the market recovers, contractors are cautious as they have yet to receive money from previously completed projects.